Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in today in partnership with NTT Data. Today, we are talking payments. So COVID has changed many things in our lives for sure. And one of that is how we as consumers pay. And in Singapore, I can now practically go cashless, right? In the physical world, my favorite cafe takes Apple Pay. My favorite nasi lemak stall takes PayLah, and a myriad of QR codes is pasted on her stall. My physio encourages me to use Grab because it gives me bonus points. My doggy swimming pool place takes Pay Now. Online, I buy with a swipe or a click or a double click. So in fact, my biggest headache as a consumer now is how to pay. Imagine then the headaches on the supplier side who are trying to keep up with our changing behavior. And that's just me in Singapore. You know, with a population of under 6 million, we have so many payment methods, too many in my opinion. So imagine markets like Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, Philippines, bigger populations. And then if you're in travel, it gets even more complex because, well, you know, your customers travel across borders. Well, at least they used to until now. So while payments have also gone local for now, cross-border payments remain a headache for travel suppliers, which is why today's topic is about navigating the complex payments ecosystem in Asia and how to localize and digitize. So what we'll do today is we're going to start off with a 10-minute talk, and then we're going to go into a panel. And remember, we want you to ask questions because this session is about you. It's about solving your headaches, solving your payment headaches, right? And we will raise the questions through the panel, and please take part in our polling as well. For now, please welcome Poon Kai Wei, who's the head of payment and chief operating officer for NTT Data, who's going to set the stage for our discussion. So over to you, Kai Wei from Hong Kong.
Thank you. Thank you, Siew Hoon. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. Before I start, I'd like to thank the organizer for organizing this wonderful event, which gives us the opportunity to get together during this difficult time. So today, I'd like to take this opportunity to share our views on what the payment ecosystem in Asia has become and how we can address the upcoming challenges. So let me share my screen. Firstly, I'd like to share what we have observed in the e-commerce world over the last couple of decades. When e-commerce first started more than 20 years ago, the first transaction was done with a credit card. It has actually remained that way until technological advancement in the last decade gave rise to new possibilities. So with this mass adoption of the affordable and user-friendly technologies, e-commerce actually became more accessible to the masses and through more channels. So this not only allows a wider range of merchants to do their business online, it has also attracted more consumers to go online, which in turn increased the business opportunity for the merchants. So as you can see, this is a virtuous cycle, right? A positive trend of increasing digital engagement between more merchants and more consumers that created a bigger pie for all in the online environment. So as this next slide shows, this trend has been expedited by the pandemic. During this pandemic, we see new types of merchants going online and digital services also exploded. So delivery services became an essential. Merchants such as gyms, yoga classes, learning centers, singing studios, these businesses are traditionally conducted in the face-to-face environment, but they are now doing their businesses online. So as most merchants go online, so do the consumers, especially during this period when they are unable to get together in a face-to-face environment to enjoy these activities. So as you can see from this chart, 78% of the consumers have increased the use of digital services after the outbreak of the pandemic, and 70% of the payments for these services are done digitally. So this echoes what Siew Hoon has mentioned in the beginning, that because of the pandemic, we're seeing more people going online. And with this increased digital engagement, consisting of many merchants and consumers, there will be new challenges across the entire customer's digital journey. So the way they purchase may be different. And within this journey, the change in the payment process is one of the most important challenges we have to look into. So why is this the case, you may ask? In general, payment process takes up the least amount of time in a consumer digital journey, which is true. But however, payment is a very important process to ensure that the sales is successfully completed. So can you imagine how frustrated the consumers will be if they go onto your website, spend hours shopping, and then finally they cannot make the purchase, right? You're going to lose this customer. So there could be many reasons why transactions cannot be completed. But as you can see from this chart, one of the reasons why consumers would not proceed with their purchases is because their preferred method is not available, right? 21%. 21% of the consumers will abandon cart if their preferred method is not supported. So this means that you stand to lose 1 out of 5 of your customers if you are unable to support their customers' preferred payment. So the reasons for this behavior could be demographics, right? Where consumers may not have the payment method that you support, right? So if they don't have the payment support, the payment method that you support, then they will not be able to pay. Or it could be personal beliefs where someone may not want to use certain form of payment for the purchases of certain items. Or it's just driven by plain benefit. So as we all know, some payment providers have a lot of marketing resources to provide huge incentive to encourage consumers to use their payment methods. But regardless of these, of whatever reasons it is, with the increased usage in digital payment, as shown in this research, getting the consumers to successfully complete their payment is very, very critical to convert a sale, which helps to grow the business and retain the customers. So now, we not only have to provide a seamless customer payment experience, we also have to take into consideration the customer payment preferences when we want to move our businesses online. From this page, we can see that digital payment is now a lot more diverse and payment options are more complex as compared to when e-commerce first started. So APMs, alternative payment methods, which refers to non-card payment methods, are actually gaining in popularity. So as you can see in this chart, in Asia, e-wallets contributed more than 50% of the e-commerce sales and are forecasted to keep growing. And one of the payment options that we notice is growing in popularity is the buy now, pay later. This payment option is becoming more popular because it allows consumers to better manage their cash flow. They can purchase something and they can pay when they get their paycheck. And of course, from the merchant's perspective, they got access to a new loyalty channel, a new source of customer base. So in one of the market research that we saw, 21% of travelers across APAC actually use this payment method to book their trips. So as you can see, non-payment cards are growing in importance. And this is especially true in markets where card penetration is really low, either due to demographic reasons or due to consumer preferences. So in this case, you may ask, then do I need to support all the payment methods, right? What is the most optimal payment process if we really need to support all these additional payment methods in order not to lose that 25 or the 20% of the consumers? So based on our engagement with our customers, right, to work out the most optimal payment process, there are multiple areas that we need to consider. So in this page, you can see that these are the few areas that are mostly discussed during our engagement. So firstly, the time to market is critical. What is the fastest and the easiest way to help them to start adopting new payment options in the new markets to cover new customer segments? Secondly, how do we help them to work with payment partners to get marketing resources to help them to drive their business in these new markets? Because when some merchants enter new markets, they are not aware, they are not sure of what to expect and what the consumers' behavior are. So how can we help them to work with payment partners who are familiar with the environment and have marketing resources? And then can we help with customization? Because certain merchants have certain customers that requires special payment flows, special business flows. So we may need to do some customization to cater to these special needs. And what other services surrounding payments are available? Meaning, do we provide payout service that helps with the end-to-end commerce? Or do we have fraud monitoring solution that helps to protect them from fraud losses or provide a safe environment for their customers to transact? And finally, a very important point as well is how can we help them to integrate payment processes into their payment business operations? For example, special reporting requirements, customized refunds and chargeback handlings. APMs are handled differently operationally. So the merchants will then be keen to understand how can we help them to cater or to incorporate the operational support into their business processes when they start adding payment methods in across multiple markets. So as you can see, just like all other areas in the customer digital journey, the payment process is becoming more complex. So businesses really needs to be better prepared for the challenges. And as I've mentioned earlier, the payment process is very critical as it decides whether the sales can be completed or not. So as with everything in this world, e-commerce and digital payment trends will change and evolve. So how can we best adapt to the change and continue to stay ahead of the game? The world of payment is very different now to what we saw when e-commerce first started 20 years ago. So this could be both an opportunity or a threat, I think, depending on the approach that we take. So different industries may adopt different ways of addressing the challenges. So I'll now hand it over to the panel for further discussion on what approaches the travel industry can consider taking in addressing the upcoming challenges. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Kai Wei, for painting such it was a super picture of massive acceleration to e-commerce, massive jump in e-wallets and different payment methods. But the most important thing was just that consumers actually now prefer these payments, right? Contactless, consumers want it. So what can suppliers do? How can they respond to the opportunity? So please welcome our panelists for this session. We have Chan Chi Chong, who's the CEO and co-founder of Global Tix. We have Ken Ling, who's Vice President Hotel Finance for Dusit International. We have Alvin Kumarga, who's the Senior Vice President Financial Services for Traveloka. And joining them, Chu An Wee, Head of Sales for Entity Data. So gentlemen, welcome to the panel. And you are all going to be doctors today. I am designated all of you as payment doctors because our task today is to try and solve as many headaches as possible around payments. And as Kai Wei talked about, there's so many headaches out there. So I'm going to start off with the big picture, and I'm going to just show you a chart which I sort of took from a fintech conference that I attended. And just look at that chart, high level, give me an idea of what this chart paints for you in your mind. CC, let's start with you.
1.7 billion adults. Unbanked.
Okay.
The market is huge, huge. Yeah.
Yeah. Ken, what about for you? What does it show you?
It tells us a lot of stories, actually. It means that potential customers for the digital payment platform. It also showed that perhaps this 1.7 billion, a lot of them are not cannot afford to bank in their money or to utilize whatever is available in the market in terms of digital payment platform.
Okay. Thanks, Ken. Okay, let's go to Anwi. What do you see, Anwi? Like massive sales opportunity for you?
Yes, I think you're right. I mean, it's 1.7 billion, and also what's interesting is also about the 200 million plus of SMEs who are access to banking services. I mean, those actually are potential of bringing them into the ecosystem. And of course, I think the 59% on East Asia and Southeast Asia. I think that is the region that we are most familiar with and where we operate in. So that's huge opportunity. Yeah, so that's my view.
Massive. Okay, which must make Alvin from Traveloka very happy. So Alvin, what do you see in this picture?
I think the rest have really spoken what I have in mind. I think this screams opportunity for me. Both on the consumer and the merchant side of things.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely COVID accelerated businesses going online, and then consumers online, and the thin end of the wedge is payments, right? So let's come back to this subject later. Okay, and Ken, let's get to know each of you better. Ken, you've been in finance and hospitality for more than 20 years. So I was just feeling sorry for you, right? Because I'm thinking this proliferation of fintech, and especially what happened in the last year, has that created even more headaches for finance people like yourself managing a hospitality group across the world?
Yes, Seo-Hoon. I have been in this industry for the past 20 years with several international brands. And actually, I've witnessed the fast growing of the fintech developments that indeed has caused some headaches for the finance folks. But it is always a good problem to have, as this means there is an increase of a wider range of customer, especially the younger generations whom have more spending power, and this generates more revenue to our hotels and resorts. Why I say this is a good problem to have in this context? This is actually similar when credit cards was being introduced many years ago and widely used. And with this new digital platform being set up now by the bank or by the vendors in the hotels and resorts, there's certainly some challenges from both the installer and the user side. However, once this is smooth running, the benefits always outweigh the challenges faced at the beginning. Thank you.
Right. Okay. So can you talk to us about, what is the biggest trend that you've seen in payments in your home base of Thailand due to COVID-19?
Yes, I would like to share my experience that the biggest payment trend that I've seen in Thailand for individual customer, in the hotels and resort, especially pre and post COVID-19, is actually the shift from traditional cash and credit card to QR code, e-wallets, even up to the debit cards, the way function of debit cards and so on, as long as they are contactless. And as we all know, this as much as possible to spread off the virus.
Okay, all right. So, let's move to CC and Global Ticks. You power tours and activities, highly fragmented. What's the biggest trend that you're seeing in payments in your sector?
I think I see two trends, right? The first trend is very similar to what Ken has mentioned, right? A lot of the operators, now they are looking at digital payment services. They used to be happy with MasterCard and Visa card, but now they want Grab Pay, they want Google Pay, Apple Pay, WeChat Pay, you name it, it's all pay, right? The second trend that we are seeing, it's more on the other side of the platform, which are the travel agents, right? They used to be happy with just having a base currency. I mean, let me give an example like Traveloka. Now they want to pay us for Singapore products in SGD, for Malaysia products in ringgit, for Japanese yen, Japanese product in yen, right? So the margins are so tight and so thin that they don't use a base currency anymore. They prefer to pay people in the local currencies, right? So these are the two trends that we are seeing: multi-currencies paying in local currencies and digital payment.
Okay. Right. So let's go to the audience. I want to ask a poll, ask an audience poll, because also CC, I want to ask you too, right? Because what Kaiwei was saying is that payments are a very small part of the online booking process, but it's actually so critical because 25% or whatever abandon your shopping because of the difficulty of paying. So let's find out from the audience too. In terms of payments, in terms of your tech stack, because you've got many problems to solve in tours and activities, how much of a priority is it? So let's go to the audience as well and ask the audience, how much of a priority in payments is as part of your tech stack? Very high, or we know it's necessary, but we don't know where to begin? Or is there too many other problems right now, so it's on the back burner because of COVID? So let's go and see what the audience says. And so CC, what would be your answer? It would be very high for you? Or?
Yeah, my answer will be very high. It's probably going to rank second or third up in my priority. Right.
Okay. All right. All right. So we see the audience basically agreeing with you too. It's like, saying very, very high. So they are attending the right event then, because, they are very high priority. Okay. So Alvin, we go to you, and I know we have a lot of questions for you. And, at WIT a few years ago, when fintech started, becoming the talk of the town, someone actually said that an OTA looks more and more like a fintech company now rather than just a travel company, right? And that seems to be the case with Traveloka. When I go to look at your financial services, I see you're offering Traveloka Pay, you have Steam Wallet, you have One Balance Traveloka. So can you talk about the financial services that you're offering as an OTA right now?
Thank you, Sihun. Yeah, good point there. We are adding more and more financial services products in our platform, but not because we want the financial services to kind of like a standalone and build a financial services business on its own. But I think it all comes down to initially we look at what customers' needs are in the travel and lifestyle space, and we go from there. So, for example, the first financial service product we launched was actually insurance. Insurance in 2015. I guess this is something very natural to travel, right? You travel, you want travel insurance. And then
Yeah.
it starts expanding insurance as well. People are asking, hey, I'm traveling, my home is being left alone, there's nobody at home, can I have home insurance while I travel? So it evolves from the travel use case actually. Second one, the lending, the buy now pay later. That's also something we're doing. We started in 2018. Again, this came out of the user need. We see user complaints, a user request saying, "Hey, I want to buy travel for my family in installments. I need to manage my cash flow. Can you help me? Considering I cannot, there's just no option for installment in Indonesia context, for example. Credit card penetration is what less than 5%. That's the only way you can do installment. Other than that, it's just cash, cash, cash. So
Okay.
we launched that, and it's been good so far. I mean, just to give you guys a sense, not only this solves a customer problem, this gets us a lot of retention and increases the lifetime value of customers. We see a customer before and after he or she uses pay later. Her after she uses pay later, his or her lifetime value more than double in terms of
Wow.
the frequency of transaction and also the ticket size that they buy, right? And then last but not least, I think as Traveloka, we are moving, we are expanding further in terms of scope, not only handling travel in terms of flight and accommodation, but also dealing with lifestyle. So we position ourselves more as a lifestyle company. So there's a lot more small daily ticket size items, your daily attractions,
Yeah.
your food and cinema. So for people to travel, enjoy themselves on a daily basis. And this requires a very, very specific payment solution. And hence we came up with our wallet, right? Just to give you a sense, if you book a cinema ticket, probably the cinema operators can only lock in that seat for 5 minutes. There's no way you can do a manual bank transfer, go to the banking app, and then you lose your seat by then. So a wallet was a good solution
Okay.
to tackle that kind of problem. So I think we have all those solutions. I mean, there's more like co-branded credit cards and so on and so forth, but ultimately it's
Okay.
coming from a user need. Yeah.
Interesting. So you're really sort of, responding to customer needs and coming up with products to meet those needs, and finding value in the services that you've offered. So Anwi, let's go to you. And other than what Kai Wei has mentioned, right? What's the biggest trend that you've seen, speaking to your customers throughout Asia, that you've seen that's been accelerated by COVID?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I think definitely a trend, I think from COVID's effect is that, domestic services has increased online for sure. But you see a big, a drastic, drop in cross-border services. And I think the effect about that is that I think just because everybody is talking about going online and, to try to retain or at least to maintain the business, the big enterprises, as we've seen, is that they have actually taken this opportunity to look at and revamp their entire business process, right? So the end-to-end digitization, transformation of the business, taking an opportunity of digital payments as the part like the digital cash register, and taking the opportunity to look at end-to-end process. So if you look at it from not just from a payments perspective, but also on a payables part. I mean, how do we put all this together digitally on a single platform, reconciliation, reporting, so on and so forth. So we see a lot of that happening, and if you just look at companies that are being tech companies that are being have sprouted out of this space. There's a lot of also venture capital money going into this kind of technology, into this kind of solution as well. So very unique. I would say that in the past, that SMEs would have tried to delay a lot in terms of transformation, in terms of getting the business digital. Right now, they want to do it first thing, and payments is always that part of it, right? So that's what we're seeing from our customers.
Okay, so let's get into the section about headaches, right? Because clearly it's thrown up a lot of headaches, a lot of opportunity, but clearly a lot of headaches. I'm going to ask the audience now for a poll. So we're going to go to the audience to understand also what is their biggest headache when it comes to payments, right? And then I'm going to ask each of you to pick one headache that you have, or two if you have a lot of headaches, but I'm only going to limit you to two, okay? Because we have a limited time. And you can ask each of the panelists, the answers to your problem. So CC, we're going to start with you. At the same time, I'm going to ask the audience out there, if you have a headache that's not listed in the poll, can you type in your headache into the chat? And then we will try and answer and try and solve your headaches as well. So, okay, so we got multi-currency issues coming out. I mean, CC, you hit the jackpot, man. So let's start with you. Your biggest headache, and you can ask the questions now.
Okay, my biggest headache is multi-currency. I mean, if you look at Europe, right, they have Euro to solve that problem, right? And if you look at America, USD generally works in the entire America. But oh my gosh, when it comes to Asia, right, you have your rupiah, you have your rupee, you have your control currencies like renminbi and won, right? So my question is, first question is to Alvin, right? How do you, when Traveloka sells a product to, let's say, a Thai citizen in Thai baht, a product that is in Japan, right? Universal Studio Osaka. How do you manage this multi-currency and currency exchange? Do you have tools behind? With the currency movement, will you lose the money because of that and things like that? How do you go about solving this in Traveloka?
Okay, Alvin, over to you.
Thanks, CC. Yeah, this is something that's very interesting for us, and I think this is something that we are still learning and we're still figuring out, to be honest with you. How we're doing it right now is, let's say, like you said, two different currencies, we need to settle in a different currency, a customer buys from a different currency. We actually determine our internal FX rate by sourcing this rate from third-party financial data provider, and we put a very thin markup on top. Right. So this thin markup is not for the purpose of seeking extra profit or value, but it's more to hedge the risk, right, for absorbing short-term volatility. during the period from customer booking and then from to settlement. So I think that's what we're doing right now. In the future, as we go along, we want to introduce using value at risk methods, which we are still developing, working with our partners. So long story short, that's how we do it. Not rocket science, but we try our best, I guess.
Okay, CC, I will allow you one question to Anwi. Okay.
Okay, so my question to Anwi is again multi-currency, right? So something that my company is exploring, right? So if somebody buys a Japan product, if people like TransferWise out there, third-party solution, that can immediately I can park some currency and convert into Japanese yen. That would reduce my risk significantly, right? Is there any tools out there that you can, or NTT has any tools out there that can recommend to us to say, what are there solutions out there that we can use and tap on?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's a good question. I think, yeah, you mentioned like TransferWise, Payoneer, all these companies, and I think there are more. I mean, there's a lot of also companies that in this space, they are working with banks to try to, minimize the kind of FX exposure for you, minimize the, also the remittance cost, right, to move from one country to the other. And all this, they really are working with a regulator. So for example, a license money like a bank or so on. So behind them, there are probably banks and so on that are actually doing that. And there are also companies that are people like Ripple who are wanting to have the ambition of replacing Swift network out there and so on. So I think this really relates to about cost, right? I mean, what we're trying to do here is that you reduce your exposure on FX by retaining local currency, but then you still need to think about how I'm going to then repatriate back. I think this part, what NTT looks at is we will make use of a lot of these partners. We partner with all these companies for that rails. We call them the rails. But I think the most important part that when we speak to the enterprises is that it is not just about the FX part, because I think that can be a function of treasury. And then there's the remittance part, right? But what enterprise look for is really about, when I do that, how am I then able to reconcile? How am I able to then do reporting? How do I then match, for example, to the payments that you receive from the other countries, right? So let's say you have Japan supply, and then you have Singapore who is buying. How do you match all that and do that in a way, in an automated way? So as I mentioned about this this COVID situation, many companies actually look into that because many of them are cross-border. And if you look at it like even from a not your business, but from a manufacturing business, this whole concept, or at least this whole thing about procure to pay right now is really a hot topic. And there's many software companies, including us, looking into and offering solutions for that. So I would say that it's not just the treasury part, but also the business automation, reporting, and the whole flow, back end-to-end flow that we need to solve. Yeah.
So clearly, the audience also agrees that the biggest headache. Let's move to the second headache. And Ken, I think you picked also the two that are mentioned here, which is high cost barrier and fraud. So Ken, who do you want to direct? Let's ask the question, and we get Alvin to answer it from how Traveloka handles it.
Yeah, maybe to Alvin, our biggest headache is credit card fraud. From time to time, we do face, in terms of online payment, credit card fraud, which I believe hackers and organized crimes are consistently finding ways to beat the system. And they are occasionally successful, maybe due to the hotel operators or the employees oversight. So that means losing money at the hotel end. So perhaps Alvin can share with us his experience and solution to that problem.
Okay.
Thanks, Ken, for the question. So it's quite a big problem in the travel industry, right? As I understand, this credit card fraud, and in fact, for us, payment fraud, all types of payment fraud is something we're looking at. For this fraud specifically, we do quite a few things that has helped and we're continuing to improve. First, we use a combination of third-party technology and our internal technology. For third-party technology, I think there's a few out there that we can explore. For internal, I think that the value is we match the third-party technology, which is off-the-shelf solution, with the internal data that we have. So for example, we know the patterns of this person's transactions. We know exactly this person usually travels from point A to point B, from this city to this city, right? On some sort of frequency on a monthly basis, for example. If suddenly there's a shift in some kind of behavior, we'll be able to detect it and say, hey, this transaction might be a fraudulent transaction. Not only the frequency, the destination, the star of the hotel, the type of airline, that's also something we take as an input, right? Secondly, we also develop our internal, I would say, customer data management database, where we extract customers' data in terms of mobile behavior, right? When do they purchase, IP address, and all that stuff, and location. We use the GPS also in the mobile app to figure out if a transaction is valid or not. Ultimately, it's a balance between your fraud rate versus your approval rate, reject rate, and try to figure out what makes sense for the business. Yeah, and I think
Right.
last but not least, sorry. Yeah, I think
No,
last
go on, Alvin.
we're also adding a few interesting challenges in our ecosystem. So for example, if it's account takeover, we suspect account takeover, we ask customers like, hey, the past 6 months you traveled to Malaysia, you stayed at hotel A, B, C, D, which one is it, right? If you are really the account owner, it should be pretty easy for you. If you're not, then yeah, probably fraud.
So a lot of tracking and then using your own internal data. Okay, so do we have another headache? So to the audience out there, remember, just submit your headaches and we can try and, okay, there's any optimism about blockchain being applied to solve any of these headaches? So who wants to take that question? Anhui, how about you?
Yeah, I could. I'm sorry. Anybody else want to take it? Or else maybe I have a shot at that. So I think, yeah, definitely blockchain. I mean, we have seen, at least from multi-currency remittance costs and all that, blockchain technology has been used to do that and try to optimize, costs. It's always very driven by cost and also to reduce the FX exposure, right? And then, in terms of the fraud management part, I mean, I wouldn't say blockchain. I would say that there's a lot of machine learning, a lot of AI technology has been used to do modelings and to help predict fraud patterns and to block them. So I think definitely there's a lot of technology advancement, a lot of actually a lot of money is going into there as well. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe I can ask Alvin, Ken, and CC without saying anything, because we got a lot of questions to go through. Can you give a thumbs up if you feel that blockchain will be able to solve some of these headaches? Down or up or down? Down. Okay, so CC is a skeptic, Alvin is a skeptic, Ken is a believer. Okay, and you are somewhere in the middle. Okay.
Yes, I'm on the side.
All right, so we have another question. Do you use multiple payment gateways as a backup when the primary gateway goes down? Okay, who wants to answer that? Shall we go to Alvin?
We used to, but we find that the maintenance and operations is challenging, right? And what we've done so far is not use two payment gateways, but to increase reliability, we figure out what payment methods are most used, and we connect directly to the source without the payment gateway. So I think that's what we try to do, and it's been helpful for us, not only because it's more reliable, we get better economics as well.
Okay, so one of the headaches was the high cost barrier of implementation, right? Which is an important part. And, you know, and we got CC, who's kind of a startup. You know, we've got good funding, but not as much as Traveloka. And we got Dusit, which is a very, you know, solid hotel group, right? So how do you, like CC, how do you take a bite at this high cost barrier of implementation? So how do you do it creatively?
What we do is that we try to work with payment partners that has as many channels as possible, right? So in every country, what we do is we identify the top 3 digital wallets that we need to connect to, and then the rest we use a payment partner. So that's how we manage our costs. So we use a combination of both, rather than that's what we do to manage our costs.
And Ken, how about Ken? How about you, Ken? How are you looking at the high cost barrier to implementation?
Yeah, we from domestically, the cost of implementing those payment like QR codes and so on, it's not that costly. But however, in terms of rooms reservation and in view of a lower cost of implementation, we have no choice but to outsource and work with a payment partner like what CC has mentioned. So we choose the right partner as our hotels are widespread worldwide, and who can cater most of our needs. Then we are working with them. So far, the payment partner are very reliable. Thank you.
Okay, so outsource versus build your own. Alvin, are you building your own versus outsourcing?
It depends on the payment methods. For example, we find bank transfer is very very used in some of the markets, so we work directly with the banks. So that's for example. But others, for example, credit card processing, that's something we still use a payment gateway for.
Okay, so I'm just going to take a couple of questions before we move on to the next topic of digital wallets, right? So very brief answer. Is there a truly international payment gateway, given there are so many developing ways to pay, whether it's WeChat or Apple? So short answer, yes or no. Anwi.
Well, I would say that yes, there is. Again, I would like to caveat that by saying that, you know, a payment gateway is a payment gateway. It could actually, many payment gateways, although it provides a single point and integration for the companies, behind the payment gateway, there's a lot of partners. And I would say that, you know, in this payment world, you know, it is about partnership. So you could have a payment gateway as a company, you know, aggregating all the other options for you. But behind the gateway, there are many other partners, which is a very normal thing right now, especially if you look at not just cards, if you go beyond, you know, APMs, like bank transfer and all the wallets and so on, you cannot escape, you know, partnerships in payments.
Right. Okay. There's a question about the headache of the costly exchange rate if the customer is trying to use a different currency than the currency that you provided. I think, Alvin, you answered that question earlier, right? How do you tackle the headache of the costly exchange rate if the customer is trying to use a different currency than the currency that you provided?
Yeah, I think for us, as I shared just now, we use the market rate from our financial providers, and then we apply a very thin markup on top of that to manage our currency risk. But that's what we do.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next topic, which is, you know, from Kaiwei's talk, it was like, you know, the massive growth in e-wallets, right? You know, so are digital wallets the way to go? So let's ask the audience too, and I'm going to ask you, like, how important is digital wallet acceptance to your business? So rate 1 to 10, 1 for least important and 10 being most important. So, you know, I'm going to go to each of you. CC, how important is it for you? Is it 1 to 10? How would you rate it, CC? CC, you're on mute.
Sorry, 8. It's one of those Zoom things.
8. Okay.
8.
8. Okay, Ken, what about you?
I would say that 8 because in Southeast Asia in particular, credit card penetration is really very low. So digital wallets is very critical.
Okay, so we're gonna see, I think the panelists all agreeing, Ken,
For me, it's in the middle,
the
maybe
audience.
5.5, because most of our business are
Okay.
credit card, cash, and bank transfer.
Okay, Alvin?
I would say between 7 and 8. I think it really depends on the type of product that we're selling versus the market itself. Like CC mentioned, in Indonesia, for example, penetration is so low, but
Yeah.
in other markets might be different.
Okay.
And I think regulations also play a part. So, for example, the wallet in Indonesia, the maximum transaction you can do is 2 million rupiah. So that's about 200 Sing dollars, right? Hello, sorry, am I on mute?
You're back.
No, you're fine. Yeah, you're back. You're back. We lost you just a bit. You know, it's part of the Zoom culture that we have right now.
So as I was saying, there is
So
a
yeah,
regulatory restriction in Indonesia for e-wallet. Your maximum transaction is 200 Sing dollars.
200.
So for some use cases, might not make sense. So I think it all depends on
Okay.
generally useful.
So I guess the headache for suppliers is, you know, and so to Anwi, I'm going to ask the question, is so many wallets out there, you know, GrabPay, FavePay, Paylah, Indonesia, GoPay, GrabPay, Rakuten wallet. I can reel it off like writing a poem or something, right?
Yeah.
So what is, should suppliers go for every wallet? How should they just work with one, or work with all, or work with third parties? What is your solution?
Yeah, I would say that, you know, really depends. You got to look into your business and also your customers and also the market as well, right? I mean, there are markets like, for example, which is quite peculiar, and I'm actually, you know, hearing from Alvin about having that wallet to solve that, you know, movie ticket kind of constraint. So that actually would be very helpful to adopt. You know, there's some markets that are, you know, and also look at in terms of the penetration, the number of users on each of the wallets, how many users, and whether they are, you know, at least the number, you know, in terms of the ranking of the usage of the wallet, are they number one, number two, right? You get an idea of whether those are important, because those represent customers' preference, right? The other thing that we find, and again, this is really talking to some of our, you know, merchants and our customers, in that many of the adoption has also been based on marketing. So I think the marketing portion of it cannot be underemphasized. There are a lot of wallets that actually package the use of their payment methods together with marketing. And if your business is able to generate, you know, revenue out of these marketing programs with them, I think, yes, sure, by all means, go for it, right? So I think it's really, I would say, depends on the market demographics of users within that wallet. And also look at what Alvin mentioned, the ticket size, how much can you pay out of that wallet? Yeah.
Right. Okay. So clearly, you know, Alvin, Traveloka decided to do your own wallet, but you know, you said something really interesting earlier, you know, in our briefing, where you basically said that in the, you know, a few years ago, you gave people a lot of payment methods, and then 2 years ago, you kind of dial it down. So tell us about that process and how you came to dial it down in terms of the payment methods that you offered customers.
Yeah, so you're right, Siu-Hun. Like before, we kept on adding payment methods. You know, we covered the major payment methods. Then we added the long tail payment methods, and we find that customers are seeing, I don't know, maybe more than 10 payment methods in their payment option page, and it gets confusing. It gets confusing for users. What should I use? And conversion started actually dropping, right? People was like, oh, there's 10 payment methods. I can pay using all 10, but which one has bigger coupons and all that stuff, right? And people start browsing and forget to pay. And you find that the placement of payment methods matter as well. You see the payment methods that are in the bottom, the 8th, 9th, and 10th. People just start to not care. There's just a lot of mental to figure out what to pay with. So what we did was that we streamlined the whole payment experience. We just gave them one payment method, right? One payment method, that's the most frequently used payment method, I think, in the past 5 transactions, 5 or 6, or I forget the number, right? And it's just that payment method. They can change it if they want, but by default, it's just that. So with just
Right.
implementing that, we see conversions go up and people completing the transactions faster.
Right. So it's really about understanding the customer. I'm laughing because I am one of those shoppers, right? And then I get, if you pay with Grab, I give you 50 points. If you pay with Fave, I get 100 points. And then I get so confused at the end of it. I say, I don't even want to buy this product
Yeah.
anymore, So,
You
so
start doing
I
the
totally
math.
get
You
it.
start
So
doing the math.
yeah. Yeah, so it's basically about making it really simple and easy for the customer, right? And what is the preferred method that I want? You surface that to me. Okay. Okay, so we have a couple of questions coming into offering just a single currency in the website. Will it help customer to buy or drop off? So can you answer by just saying buy or drop off? CC. Okay, no.
Drop off.
Okay,
Yeah,
thumbs
drop
down.
off.
Drop off. Okay. Anwi, thumbs up or thumbs down?
I
One
think,
single currency.
I think if you off, I would say thumbs up, because I think the single currency of that market, I think that would make sense. You definitely don't want to have a currency of not that market. Yeah, but single currency would be simple and easy understood by the consumers. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Okay. So go to Ken, right? Ken, you were telling me that you were getting a lot of requests from your properties, whether it's from Maldives and all that, to that they want to take alternative payment methods, like they wanted Google Pay or Samsung Pay and Apple Pay, right? So how are you addressing the needs of your hotels that are also outside Thailand?
Thank you, Sihun. The request recently is actually coming from Maldives. The customer was saying that, how come you guys do not have Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, and Google Pay, but the rest of them have? And fortunately, the hardware side of it is prepared, and we just need to add those channels into our existing hardware. And then because we are working with an intermediate company who deals with the bank, and so it is easily done. But after implementing that recently, we don't see any usage, but anyhow, our business is to please the customer at the end of the day, right?
Okay, all right. So we have a question, and actually it was related to a question I'm going to ask later, but I think Kai Wei also mentioned it about buy now, pay later, right? So do you foresee buy now, pay later be popular payment method after mobile wallet? And I think, Alvin, you offer buy now, pay later. So have you seen really sort of a rise in popularity for that payment method, Alvin?
Yeah, I have. I think I'm a proponent of that payment method. Not only because we're seeing a lot of demand for buy now, pay later. I think that the key thing is actually figuring out from a buy now, pay later, business perspective, figuring out who you can accept and who you can't, because there's risk involved there. That's the key. But as travel provider, I think it's very, very helpful, especially the uplift in customer lifetime value that we get.
Yeah, you were saying that it almost doubled the lifetime value of a customer, right?
Double.
When they
More than double.
more than double. And some of these buy now, pay later platforms that have come up with huge valuation, right? And they actually offer themselves as sort of more loyalty marketing platform. So let's go to Ken. What are your thoughts? Buy now, pay later, up or down? Ken, up. Okay. CC. Okay. Tell me your reservation about it.
Okay, we power a lot of smaller tour operators and like Universal Studios. So we have talked with them, but many of them are not so keen with the buy now, pay later. Unlike the OTAs, I mean, I know the OTAs are really into it, right? The platform players, the Agoda are really into it, but the merchants themselves don't seem to be picking it up. I'm not sure why, but just don't see it. Yeah.
Okay. Anwi, do you have an answer to that?
I would say that just based on our discussion with our customers and prospective customers, it is at least in top 1 or 2 on the list, buy now, pay later for sure. I think maybe the hesitation really comes to, if it's a small ticket item and so on, like whether it really makes sense for the provider to do that because there's risk involved. And does it really, in the end, it has to help build more business for you. But in general, we are seeing a lot more uptick and more queries on buy now, pay later.
Yeah, they've been very aggressive in marketing. Okay, so we've talked about buy now, pay later. So thumbs up or thumbs down to the payment methods that I'm gonna throw out. Okay, local wallet. Up. Okay, regional wallet. Okay, we are divided, like split. Okay, global wallet. Okay, CC and Ken up, and Elvin not sure, and Anwi is a bit is down, right? Okay, QR code. I mean, that's the oldest technology that's just come back to the fore. QR code. Up. Okay, all going up. Okay, Anwi too. Okay, real-time payments, bank transfer with mobile number, like quick. Okay, all up. Okay, all up. Okay. All right, so we're going to wrap up. We have a few more minutes to wrap up. Very briefly, each of you, okay? What's the biggest lesson that you've learned about payments thanks to COVID? Alvin, we start with you.
I think the biggest lesson about payments thanks to COVID is it pushes us to innovate more, I would say, right? Because I think for our payment infrastructure, our buy now pay later was impacted because of COVID, right? Because people are not paying anymore, traveling anymore, and we're seeing risks go up. Right? So I think what we've learned is how to better manage risk, right? And also we used buy now pay later to incentivize users to kind of book hotels, pay later kind of thing during our this COVID period. So I think that's the learning. And one other learning is don't be I think don't get trapped into like, okay, there's nothing we can do while COVID is happening. But for us, we invested a lot of time, effort, resources into developing our payment infrastructure so that when COVID is over and we're back to normal, we can just fly again.
Okay, great. So a time to build. Okay, CC, biggest lesson.
My 80-plus-year-old dad asked me to help him to open an online banking account. So my biggest takeaway is that during crisis, human behavior will change. So you always have to keep an eye on the trend.
Okay, Ken?
I guess is to invest in the payment techs much earlier. Doesn't matter is pre-COVID or post-COVID, but definitely one thing for sure is the new norm will take place forever. I think in the past, human has, take this for granted. Like for example, sanitizing the hand and things like that, which should have been done, even before the COVID time. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Anwi?
Yeah, I think I echo a lot of the sentiments that I hear from the three other panelists. Sorry. I think for me, the lesson learned is that, and it's a positive thing, is that many companies are really going full speed and even faster compared to pre-COVID in terms of digital transformation, right? For those who are already online, it's about how do I put more efficiency, how do I do things better? And those who are not online, they're going online, right? So I think that is very positive. It's a positive thing from a payments perspective.
Yeah, I mean, you really can't hold back the tide now, I mean, this is a wave that's just coming and it's not going to recede, right? So I'm going to end with one last question with the supplier. So I'm going to go to CC, Alvin, and Ken, right? After this session is over, and after what you've heard, but also from your own experience, what's the number one thing on your to-do wish list that you are going to do in terms of payments? What's the number one thing that you want to crack? Okay, CC.
If I have unlimited resources, I want to explore a B2C app where if I have GrabPay, I can convert it into PayPay when I go to Japan and start using it. I think that would be really cool and what consumers really want.
Okay. Wow, that's your new business then. Okay, after COVID. Okay. Ken, if money were not an object, and I know that's very difficult to ask a finance guy that question, but if money were not an object, what would you invest in terms of payments tech?
Whatever that enhance the customer experience in our website. The interaction must be seamless when the customer buy our products, and of course it's reliable. There's no fraud, potential fraud to happen. I think we don't hesitate to spend money on those areas.
All right. Okay. And Alvin, last word.
I think for us, we talked a lot about consumers. One thing that we want to do in Traveloka is invest in the merchants, invest in our hotel partners and travel partners. I think there's a lot of concerns that our partners have with regards to payments, with regards to enabling access to funds, financing, and all that. I think that's something that we want to work on. We want to help them get more integrated with ecosystem and bounce back quickly from COVID. So I think that's something that we have unlimited funds, right? That would be good.
Yeah, clearly, there's huge opportunity in the payment space right now, but that opportunity can only be realized by all of us if we bring our partners along, right? CC, Ken, Alvin, and you, and Anwi, you got to bring the industry along to grow that pie and grow that space for everybody, because we can't do it on our own, right? So as the beginning, when Kai Wei talked about, seeing all these partnerships, that's really important. And I guess that's why we are doing this event in partnership with NTT Data. And I want to thank our panelists, Alvin, Ken, CC, and Anwi, for really providing such wisdom and insights into, trying to solve headaches. And I hope that we have solved some of the headaches of of the audience out there. And remember, you can always contact WIT if you, feel that you have certain issues that you still want to address. So in the meantime, thank you for joining us. And I hope that we have resolved some of your headaches. So thank you, Alvin, Ken, Anwi, and CC.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Till the next event. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.